Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar entitled Farm to Early Care and Education. This webinar is being presented by the Pennsylvania Department of Education, Division of Food and Nutrition, in collaboration with Project PA. I'm Elaine McDonald, coordinator of Project PA, and I'll moderate today's webinar. Before we begin, just a few bits of housekeeping. We will take questions following today's two presentations. You can type your questions into the chat box on the upper right-hand side of the screen, and you can do so at any time during the presentations, but we'll collect those questions and save them until the two presentations are complete. You might have noticed there are several items that you can download from the file share box in the lower left-hand corner of the screen. We have both presentations, the slides from both presentations in handout format. If you're just looking for those are Food Trust slides handout and STEP slide handout. They are PDFs. We also have a fact sheet from USDA. Their Farm to Preschool fact sheet is available to download. If you want to download all of the items from the file share box at one time, you can do so by using the drop-down menu in the upper right-hand corner of the file share box. Some of the other items in the file share box are specific to each presentation, so we will let the presenters talk about what they are making available to you to download if you would like. We are recording today's webinar, and we will be posting the audio from the webinar along with the presentation and the Q&A on the Project PA website about a week or two following the conclusion of the webinar. I wanted to mention that this webinar is actually the first in a series of Farm to School webinars that we'll be offering over about the next year. We haven't announced the specific topics of the upcoming webinars yet, but you can look for that in the coming weeks. Today's webinar and the series of Farm to School webinars are being offered as part of a Farm to School project that has been implemented through Project PA for the past 7 or 8 years. However, this is our first educational opportunity that has addressed farm to early care and education. So this is somewhat new to us, and we are pleased to have with us today some presenters with expertise and experience in this area. So I'm going to introduce all of our presenters, and then I'll turn it over to them to do their presentations. So we are pleased to have with us today Deb Bensel. Deb is Associate Director of Community Food Systems at the Food Trust. We also have Rochelle Abbott and Abby Eschbach from STEP. Rochelle is the Chief Operations Officer. Abby is the Wellness and Nutrition Initiative Coordinator. So if you can just bear with us for a few seconds, we will pull up our first presentation and turn it over to our first presenter. Okay, we will start with Deb Bensel from the Food Trust.
Thank you, Elaine. Good afternoon, everybody. It's so nice to be able to talk with you today about farm to early care and education. I'll start just by telling you a little bit about the Food Trust. The Food Trust is a nonprofit organization based in Philadelphia, but we work locally, regionally, and nationally to help support increased access to affordable, nutritious food and information to make healthy decisions. And we do that in a bunch of different ways. We obviously do some farm to school and farm to early care work. We also do work in healthy corner stores, helping to support store owners to stock healthy items and market them. We also have a farmers market program wherein we operate a network of about 20 markets, 20 to 25, depending on the year, here in Philadelphia, most of which are located in low-income neighborhoods. We also do advocacy work on the state and federal levels to help support healthy food access policies. We also do nutrition education directly in the communities and in schools through SNAP-Ed funding. We have a youth leadership program called HYPE, where we engage youth in schools to be empowered to make healthy food changes and physical activities available to themselves and their community. And so we're really trying to meet people where they are. And typically our approach, we consider a holistic one in which we increase access to healthy food, and we also work to educate folks on how to use those healthy foods at the same time. So that's a little bit about the Food Trust. And I also wanted to mention that in terms of our farm to school experience and partnerships over the years, that we've worked closely with Project PA for so many years through our partnership through the National Farm to School Network. The Food Trust acted as the Mid-Atlantic Regional Lead to the National Farm to School Network for about 7 years, and we helped facilitate farm to school activities and farm to ECE activities across 6 states in Washington, D.C., and more recently, we became the Pennsylvania core partner to the National Farm to School Network. So we're really here to support folks in the field, promote what's going on, and connect you to other people doing this work so that you can make your programs go. Okay, so let's start with what is Farm to Early Care and Education. Farm to ECE, as we think about it, is really a continuum. We think of it as an extension of farm to school practices, honing in on gardening, education, and local foods procurement for meal, snacks, and taste tests. It's really an extension just back into the earlier years of childhood. And we like to do this because we like to keep in mind that the sooner we can set children up for success in terms of their food and physical activity environment, the better. Let's get them off on the right foot before they even get to kindergarten. We always keep in mind a few things with respect to farm to early care and education. One, parent and family engagement is really important to consider in terms of all strategies that are used. Two, this is an amazing opportunity to think about professional development for early care and education staff. Support will be needed, perhaps to do that, but it's really a wonderful opportunity to engage staff. And three, tailoring those activities to be culturally responsive and appropriate based on the children and families being served is another important consideration. We know that just like with farm to school and K to 12, every school is different, every preschool is different, every community is different. So as much as we can tailor it to what that community needs, all the better. Perhaps unlike the K to 12 environment, early care and education settings vary really widely, and we know this, right? So there's home-based care, there's for-profit centers, there's Head Start programs. But just like regular farm to school, we like to encourage folks to do some planning and jump in where they're ready to jump in. Let's talk for a minute about why farm to early care and education. We like to say that there's a win-win-win situation to be had here. Kids win. And how do kids win with farm to early care and education? We know that farm to school practices and farm to early care education practices lead to increased exposure to and consumption of more fruits and vegetables. And we all know that's something that we'd like to see happen with our youngest eaters. This increased exposure leads to a greater willingness to try new things as you're setting up fun, safe environments for kids to do taste tests or have a locally grown snack in the classroom. It increases their knowledge of gardening and agriculture and nutrition and just gets them excited about foods that grow in the region. And we know that Pennsylvania is a wonderful, wonderful state in terms of local agriculture. We grow the whole plate here in PA. So there's a lot for kids to learn about in terms of our farming community and the kinds of foods that the Keystone State produces. We know, and I think all of us on the line probably know too, that in particular with fruits and vegetables, things that are grown locally taste fantastic. So as we're doing things like introducing new fruits and vegetables to young palates, all the better to have those items be fresh and sweet and harvested right from the field. What a great way to get them excited about these foods. These are also, it's an opportunity for experiential education with children too. You get them excited about learning about their food environment by taking them on farm field trips, engaging them in the garden, and just getting them excited about what's going on in their food system. And we'll talk a little bit more about what farm to early care looks like on the ground in a moment. We also like to say that farmers win. This is an opportunity potentially for farmers and other food suppliers to tap into a new market. This can be about economic development and job creation. When we think about the benefits to our agriculture community, this can be about, farmers having increased revenue and more business and more relationships and more partnerships with different kinds of, customers than they had before. It makes a nice connection between rural and urban communities potentially. And it also helps protect farmland and open space when we work with our local agricultural producers. And then, of course, we like to say that communities win. And this might perhaps be even more true of the early care setting than it is in the K to 12 environment because families are so intimately involved in what goes on in their little ones' lives. Parents are there at drop-offs, they're there at pickup, they're really engaging with the teachers and administrators basis in a really special way. And we know that ECE providers work really, really hard to reach those parents. So when we implement farm to early care and education practices and programs and activities, we really create linkages, between, or we can help strengthen linkages between the early care provider and the families by providing these fun, educational, engaging ways for folks to experience healthy food, experience local food, and feel like they have a connection to the farming community around them. So some of the benefits, we just talked about a few benefits of Farm to ECE. Increased willingness to try new fruits and vegetables. With Farm to School, we definitely learned that there's an increased consumption of fruit and vegetables. Positive feedback from families and communities. And hopefully, potentially, the opportunity to reduce food waste on the plate, on the tray. The next thing I just wanted to talk about is the fact that with Farm to ECE, if you're out there thinking about implementing these programs, you're really not alone. There's so many resources at your fingertips these days. Elaine is a resource to you. The Food Trust is a resource to you. You're going to hear from Step Head Start in a few minutes that they're an amazing resource. There's folks all over the place who can help you think through what might work for you. And one of the prime places to go for support, training, and technical assistance is the USDA Office of Community Food Systems. They've created fact sheets, and they work all over the country to help support best practices, particularly as they relate to gardening and local food procurement through the Child and Adult Care Food Program. USDA also administers a Farm to School grant program that opens up opportunities for folks to tap into funds to help support their projects. There's, regional leads. Our regional lead is Tegan Bernstein. She happens to be located in New Jersey. I'm sure she'd love to hear from you if you need any support whatsoever around your Farm to Early Care program. Also, the National Farm to School Network is a resource for you to consider. The National Farm to School Network is an information advocacy and networking hub and works really hard to connect people across the state and across the country. They also act to do advocacy work to help do things like support farm to school grant programs within USDA. So check out those resources as well. I'll have a list of resources at the end of this presentation. But again, I really encourage you to reach out to your local point people here in Pennsylvania. That would be my colleague, Kelsey Porter. And also reach out to national staff if you like. Everyone loves to talk about all this work, so feel free to get in touch. Don't be shy. We like to say that Farm to Early Care and Education is really for every kind of community and every kind of ECE program. It really doesn't matter what type you are. So, whether you're private, nonprofit, you're a Head Start program, there's opportunities to engage in these activities, and there's ways to really connect, whether it's through your food program, through gardening, or through your curriculum to these activities. This is really meant to be open for everyone because it's such a great way to connect families to healthy local food and children to those foods. So we're just going to do a quick poll for folks who are on the line. Now that you know a little bit about what Farm to Early Care and Education can look like, and again, just to review, those three main buckets of activities are nutrition and agriculture education, gardening, and local food purchasing for meal snacks and taste tests. Tell us, are you involved in any Farm to ECE activities? Let's just give everybody a moment to respond if they haven't yet. Okay, results are coming in. It looks like about half and half, which is really, really exciting to hear. Here at the Food Trust, we have this hunch. There's so much going on in the field, but of course, Pennsylvania is a big state with a lot of people and a lot of early care centers. So the more that we can learn about what's going on at your center, the better. We'd love to hear stories from the field. Okay, just wanted to give a couple of examples of what Farm to ECE looks like on the ground. First is the North Square Community Alliance. We've been working with these folks for about a year now. North Square Community Alliance is based in North Philadelphia in a neighborhood called Kensington. They're a community development corporation. They provide a wide range of community services, including offering 5 Head Start and Early Head Start programs in the northeast part of the city. They really work to empower residents to be self-reliant, and they really try to work on all aspects of the community to improve outcomes for children and families. Their program and processes are inclusive and collaborative. They really want to work on having all their programming and processes be community-led. So the Food Trust helps support a strategic plan development by having a community-based strategic planning committee. They're working very hard on creating fresher, healthier menus, and they are working on culturally appropriate recipes to include. They've been working to include locally grown foods into their meal program, and they're working with the Common Market, which is based here in Philadelphia. They're a local food hub that sources from sustainable family farms in the Delaware Valley region. They also offer gardening opportunities and have been working really hard to make parent connections through events and other means. Steph is going to talk about their program. Let's talk a little bit about what farm to early care and education can look like on the ground, just to give you a little bit more of an idea. The approach the Food Trust takes is one that's we really encourage sites to be flexible. We know that early care and education providers of all kinds, no matter what setting you're in, are very busy people. They have a lot going on. And oftentimes things like curricula have already been chosen, established, and implemented. So we like to tell folks, think about farm to early care and education and the range of activities as being extra tools in your toolbox. How can you just simply incorporate these activities and these concepts into what you're already doing so that you can build a program that feels sustainable? It doesn't feel overwhelming. So we're going to talk a little bit about what those activities and program elements can look like now. There are many different kinds of curricula for folks to pull from. There are a few go-tos that we use here at the Food Trust that address nutrition and physical activity and farm to early care and education activities. So we really like the Building Healthy Habits or Growing Healthy Habits curriculum from Sesame Street Workshop. That's a great one. The IATP Farm to Child Care Toolkit is a fantastic curriculum that's really a food-based curriculum that focuses in on fruits and vegetables of the month, creates activities and taste tests around them. There's also garden-based activities. There are ones that are more locally available. We really enjoy the garden-based curriculum that was developed by City Blossoms, which is a nonprofit organization based in Washington, D.C. There's also, many folks are familiar with Grow It, Try It, Like It, which is a team nutrition curriculum. So even if you have a curriculum that you're using, we like to point you to different ones to, steal and grab little ideas to fold into what you're already doing. Classroom connections are, a great way and an easy way to implement what you're already doing, whether it's around circle time and reading a book about how food grows or a farming community. That's a great way to go. Art projects. We've seen lots of early care centers that have food models, and then food models are used to sort of have a pretend farmers market or something to that effect. So lots and lots of opportunities to engage children in the classroom. Gardening. One thing we've certainly learned over the years is that lots and lots of preschools and early care centers are already doing gardening. It just makes sense. Kids love to get their hands dirty. There are lots of different ways you can do gardening, from container gardening, like starting seedlings in the classroom, or doing containers outside if you don't necessarily have a lot of land, to more robust gardening that might be going on. Gardening is also a really fantastic way to engage parents and families in activities at the center. Having a garden harvest day, a garden planting day, a garden cleanup day. It's a fantastic way to get everybody involved. And again, generally speaking, we like to think about how to get parents involved, whether there's cooking in the classroom that happens between parents and children and staff. Maybe there's a special health fair that the center wants to put on, and parents are encouraged to come out and try healthy local foods or learn about the programming that's going on. Lots of ways to engage families and parents. Tasting and cooking with small children is a really, really great way to go to introduce young children to new foods. We know that on average, it takes about 10 to 20 tries for children to accept a new fruit or vegetable or other new food into their diet, and creating a safe, fun environment for that to happen in the classroom is a great strategy towards that end. So taste testing on a regular basis, whether it's weekly or monthly, of new foods is a fun way to go. It's also typically pretty economically feasible if you're thinking about introducing locally grown fruits or vegetables. You're not talking about big quantities. You're just talking about a couple of bites It's a really fun way to get kids excited. And then finally, some experiential activities are always great too. We love it when kids go out and visit the farm, whether it's something like you see here to do pumpkin picking or maybe strawberry picking. Lots and lots of opportunities here in Pennsylvania for children to go out and visit their local farm, whether that's an urban farm or a rural farm, community farm, whatever it might be. It's a great way to connect children to how food grows and who grows their food in the community. Local food procurement is another big one that folks often think about. So if you're operating a meal program, one thing you might want to think about is the opportunity to include locally grown and produced foods into your meal program. You don't have to be operating the child and adult care food program to do this. You could really be doing anything at all. We like to encourage sites to start really small where this is concerned, because I know it can be overwhelming to think about adding a new vendor, introducing new items into the menu. So what you might do is look at your current menu and say, I've been serving apples from Washington State in September. Maybe what I could do is just try it out and do some locally grown Pennsylvania apples. And that's an easy way to simply make a swap with something that's available locally. If you want to get more involved, you could, do much more planning in terms of what things could look like seasonally on your menu, and, take a step back and reflect on the fruits and vegetables and other foods that are being offered, and try to make them more seasonally appropriate based on what grows in our region. That said, as well, because Pennsylvania is also a state that produces dairy, fluid dairy, yogurt, we produce eggs, we produce other proteins and grains. You could really think about the whole plate and what that could look like in terms of local food sourcing. But oftentimes it's definitely easiest to start with fruits and vegetables. They're a cost competitive item. We grow a really, really, really diversified amount of fruits and vegetables here in Pennsylvania. So, knowing your own children that you're working with, you could tailor it to what you think they might like, and there's plenty available. Just one more thought on procurement. I was just actually doing a farm to institution workshop yesterday with another group of people, and oftentimes folks say it's too expensive, or I don't think I have enough buying power. We'd really like to encourage people just to think about it, and then reach out to some of those resources that I mentioned earlier to figure out where to get started. Sometimes that might just mean stopping at the roadside farm stand to pick up a couple peaches to try with your students. It could also mean if you wanted to get more involved with really overhauling your menu, or maybe you need advice on how to do procurement for USDA rules and regs, you could reach out to USDA. So, just recognizing that it's not always really easy to engage in local food procurement, but it is possible. And there are lots of resources here to help and support you in whatever goals you decide to set for your meal or snack program. Okay, so the Food Trust, we're really excited to also let you know, and we hope that you will help spread the word, that we have a Farm to Early Care Recognition Award program that we have just launched as of about a week or so ago. We are looking to recognize 10 providers across Pennsylvania. So if there's anybody here on the phone from out of state, I'm sorry, you're not eligible. We're really just looking to highlight folks from Pennsylvania right now who are already engaged in farm to EC practices. We will award those 10 sites a $500, grant basically to enhance and support the programs that you have going on. We are excited that, we will be awarding these grants and awards by about mid-June. So one of the items in the file share folder is a PDF that details the RFP. There's a link to the forms that you could use online if that's the way you'd like to fill out the form. We want to keep things flexible. We have links in English and in Spanish. I believe we also have the PDF is also in Spanish. I think there's two versions actually in the file share folder. So go ahead and share that with anyone that you want. We'll also happily take written submissions. We just want it to be easy for you to apply. So please help spread the word. We really look forward to highlighting some great things that are going on in the field. Okay, and then finally, oftentimes folks just say, where do I start? I have so many things going on, and we just want to encourage folks to think about starting small and working up to those bigger picture visions of what you want your farm to early care to look like. So whether it's seedlings in the classroom, or you want to just try out a taste test, or maybe you want to take a farm field trip to your local farmer's market with just one of your classrooms, start small. It's okay. Start small, celebrate those early wins. You know, it's a great way to engage the rest of the staff at the center, great way to engage the families, and definitely congratulate yourself on whatever place you start at, because, you know, you got to feel good about this. Build activities into what you're already doing. You know, try to integrate with early learning standards where possible. Involve parents as, you know, as partners in this process, and also reach out to other external partners who might be nearby. You can think about your local farmer as a partner, but maybe if you want to get involved in gardening, you might reach out to your county Penn State Extension agent, for example, who might be able to give you some technical assistance with what to plant and where to locate your garden. So just, you know, steal ideas from others. We all do it. I highly recommend it. And just try things out. That's all you can do. I wanted to include just a few resources. Again, you know, these links will be present in the slides. You should be able to click right through. I mentioned before the National Farm to School Network and USDA. The Food Trust is also here to help support and assist you. There's a lot of SNAP Ed opportunities to connect in terms of lessons, support, and assistance. You know, Elaine is also here to help support you. And then Penn State Cooperative Extension has a number of resources as well. And I know we're going to hold questions till the end, so thank you very much. And I guess at this point, we'll turn this over to Abby and Rochelle.
Thanks, Deb. That was really great. Deb mentioned we are going to hold questions till the end, but if you do have questions, you can feel free to type them in that file share box or chat box at any time. And I will pull up our next presentation. And I'll turn it over to Rochelle and Abby.
Good afternoon, everyone. I just wanted to say thank you to Elaine for having us as part of this webinar today. My name is Rochelle Abbott. I'm the Chief Operations Officer here at STEP Incorporated. And also with me is Abby Eschbach, who you'll be hearing from throughout the presentation. Just a little bit of background. STEP is a community action agency. We celebrated our 50th year anniversary last year. As a community action agency, we provide services under our umbrella through various pathways to success. And one of those pathways is early learning. We have held the contract for Head Start and Early Head Start, well, for Head Start for 50 years. Early Head Start came on board, I would say, just over 5 years ago. We also are a Pennsylvania pre-K grantee, as well as a parent-child home program grantee. The mission of STEP is to engage diverse individuals, families, and communities in the pursuit of social and economic success. So just understanding a little bit about STEP in terms of families served, we serve approximately 600 families in the Lycoming and Clinton County area in central Pennsylvania on a yearly basis. And then just some of the numbers, early Head Start, 121, children per year, regular Head Start, 402, pre-K counts, 156, and the parent-child home program, 54 children. And so as you can see, under our early learning umbrella, we have a diverse kind of initiative, and our early learning programs also coordinate with all of our other pathways to success, including our workforce development pathway, our housing options pathway, our community collaboration pathway, and our independent living pathway. So we talked a little bit about this in the earlier slides, but what is farm to school? So I won't go over this too much, but this is really the impetus that really got us thinking about moving to the farm to Head Start model. And so what we're doing in terms of thinking about why farm to pre-K and why we started to look at this piece, STEP has really been doing farm to Head Start for many, many years. But in the last 3 years, we've really formalized what we've been doing with regards to farm to Head Start. And a lot of that came because of us being a community action agency. We're required to do a needs assessment every 3 years. And in that needs assessment, it was identified that hunger is on a rise within Lycoming and Clinton counties. And that was a kind of red flag to us that we needed to do more with regards to what we were doing with our families, including our children that are in the Head Start, Early Head Start, and all of our early learning programs. So the whole point behind our Farm to Head Start program, we are serving a very vulnerable population. The key is we're boosting the parental involvement and engagement. We're always looking at building curriculums or building activities that are really experimental, experiential, and a good fit for our families. The programs that we're going to be going on, the program components, as well as the examples that we're going to be going through, are basically add-ons. Like Deb said, you know, we all have curriculums that we utilize in our early care programs. And so what we did really through our Farm to Head Start pieces are formalize the additional information that our teachers can utilize on a daily basis in their classroom. We utilize the gold standard as well as the creative curriculum, and so a lot of these pieces fit really nicely into that design, the program design, and the requirements for Head Start. And so we really took the concept of the farm to school, tailored it to our kind of Farm to Head Start program, and then really kind of built it into our own curriculum and made it kind of bite-sized now for our teachers to utilize on a regular basis. So, like I said, you know, pattern after the national farm to school movement, really aligned with the early childhood and Head Start frameworks. It consists of various programs, which Abby will be talking about, very many pieces of those. And really the key is not just engaging our parents and our families, but also other staff involved, as well as community partners, such as the Penn State Master Gardeners, local farmers, local apiaries, and other pieces that we'll talk about. So in terms of the program components, we focus in 3 areas: growing, cooking, and eating. And this will allow for the children and families to understand how food is growing, what it looks like, essentially when it's growing, and all those components of it. It'll also focus on the whole idea of cooking and engaging young children in that experience of cooking, and kind of understanding the processes of cooking and what that deals with and those things. And then also the whole idea of eating, and that's really to build those healthy habits for later in life and kind of continue through life. If we're starting them young, we really feel that it'll be kind of a long-lasting trajectory of positive development and healthy eating. So I'm going to hand it over to Abby now, and Abby's going to go through the timeline that kind of will showcase to you the progress that we've made in our formal Farm to Head Start programming.
Hello, everybody. So to start, in 2014, we started with our fall and spring harvest workshops. Each of these were 8-week programs, and we met with the same class twice a week. The first workshop in the week was always more of a activity-based and learning-based workshop, and then the following workshop that week was always based on eating and cooking. So that way we sort of covered all bases of that particular vegetable that week. Each week we tried to highlight a different vegetable. So one week it might be cauliflower, and we explored the fact that there's 4 different colors of cauliflower out there, and the kids loved that. We did taste tests. We talked about how they grow, and then we did an activity with the different colors of the rainbow and things like that. Along with the successes of that, we were able to start developing the Harvest of the Month program based on, what was working in the existing program with the fall harvest and spring harvest. We took bits and pieces of that along with utilizing other programs that we saw in existence throughout the country. And we started that development piece. And along the way there, through 2016, we started seasonal festivals that highlighted recipes. They were held in the evening, so they brought in the whole family, siblings, parents, caregivers, and it allowed the parents to really see what the kids were doing all day, as well as getting them involved. In some of them, there were cooking activities. Some of them were just taste tests, or at this past winter festival, it was pretty much a full dinner of different recipes that we've featured in the classroom with the kids. It's really showed a lot of successes, so we were able to bring it to our play groups, which is the early Head Start kids, along with their parents and families to do snack activities and different things like that.
And just to add on to what Abby was saying, the fall and spring harvest programs were really kind of intense in terms of that there were two staff, that Abby and Sally, who really were in the classroom doing that. The teachers really played no role in it besides, carving out an hour to an hour and a half for those 2 days a week for Abby and Sally to come in and do those workshops. After we, gone through some of the fall and spring harvest workshops, the realization was these classrooms were getting very intense training and learning, and the kids were seeing great results. But we also had, 43 other classrooms of children that we weren't getting to. And so that really prompted the whole idea of moving to the Harvest of the Month model, so that we can actually teach our teachers how to do that. So within any of our 43 classrooms, these activities will be going on. And so I think that that's kind of a key component as you think about our transition into where we're going in the future.
So here is the first slide featuring our fall harvest and spring harvest workshops. It's going to give you some different pictures and overview of the entire program. This particular one, we play games with the children. We get them physically involved, and we talk about why nutrition is good for our body, the energy levels it gives us, and how to respond to our bodies properly, as far as what we need.
I think right here they're playing the game Farmer Says. So yeah. They changed the whole Simon Says, and it was very successful.
And in this one, it highlights the fact that we explored the different produce. And I do want to point out any sort of activity that actually used the food, we had to actually eat the food then. There was no food waste. So that was a big component, in the fact that you're working with people on budgets and things like that. So you want to respect the food that you're using. In this particular one, we're exploring our senses. What does the pepper look like? What does it smell like? Can you hear it when you break it in half? Can you, and then finally we did, what does it taste like? Here we did a discussion on the food groups. So the children were able to come up, pick a food out of a mystery bag, and they had to vote on which bucket it belonged in. Instead of sugars and fats, we say sometimes food. It's a little bit easier for the kids to understand in their, in their daily lives. They can, if they want that fudgesicle or whatever it might be, they'll know that that's something they have sometimes, and it's a treat to, to savor at the moment. Here we talk about the different benefits of our body. We're feeding Henry the Huggle monster, we were calling him. And the kids really got attached to him, so he came with us all 8 weeks, and they loved to feed him healthy foods. And we talked about different grains, proteins, carbohydrates, what they do for our body. They each got a turn to feed him something healthy. And we talked about, you know, it's Henry's birthday, so he might get cake or something like that, just to bring it to a realistic level, like to talk about the sometimes foods and things like that. We also did, you know, classroom activities that don't have to be so interactive, so they could all sit down and do these activities, which the teachers really appreciated. Coloring activities, build your own salad, things like that. Here they're cutting local tomatoes and enjoying a homemade pasta salad. We made our own vinaigrette, and the kids all got to shake it up and add the ingredients, and each component of the pasta salad represented a different color, and each color benefits our body in different ways.
One of the things they did at this week was the whole eating your rainbow, and that really became a trend or a discussion point both throughout the workshops as well as the Harvest of the Month program, the eating your rainbow as kind of a catchphrase.
This was a big highlight of our program. Laura Judson came in from Walnut Run Farm. She's a farmer in the Williamsport area, an organic farmer. And the kids were really surprised to meet her because before she came in, we asked, you know, what they pictured when they pictured a farmer, and she was not, she did not fit their description. They expected a big guy coming in overalls and a hat, so it was pretty cool to have her come in with her baby alongside her and just talk about farming and what it does for our community and why it's good for us to support local farms and why local food is so good for us.
And another note, we actually utilized Laura's farm as part of our CSA. So we actually had a CSA for all of our programs that we utilize for Farm to Head Start. And Laura's one of the farmers that we get a CSA from. And so we were able to get kind of weekly or bi-weekly kind of fruit and vegetables, and a lot of the ingredients for all of the recipes came right from her.
The programs included ongoing projects like building your own farm. We kept activities like that within their classroom. Here they were building a garden, coloring their own garden, and different components like that. We planted herbs. We discussed the growing processes and what all that includes. They got to grow their own herbs, and then we actually cooked with them at the end of the program, which was pretty cool. So if the season's right, we got to do that, which is great. We talked about the different parts of plants, and we actually made a plant salad that include all different parts, including the flower, the stem, the leaves, the roots. So it was like all different parts of the plant that came together as a salad, and they loved it, which was great. And we integrated the Master Gardeners program, and we use them a lot, actually, as resources. This one in particular, Linda Betts, came in, and she became known as the Worm Lady because she talked about worms and composting, and they actually made a composting bin for the classroom that we could use, and they continued to use throughout the year. The kids loved handling the worms. And finally, the local beekeeper, Sarah Smith, came in and spoke about how honey is made and how bees are very important to our atmosphere and the earth in general. And we made 5 food group smoothies, that included honey. The kids got to choose different items from each of the food groups, so local fruits, local vegetables, and granola. And for the most part, it was a big hit with all the kids. They love trying new things. You know, as they taste things, we're sure to say, you know, don't yuck my yum. We use that a lot. So basically, if you don't like something, that's okay, as long as you give it one try. We call it a polite bite. But if you don't like it, and you can just set it aside. You don't have to say yuck or anything like that. And to finish off each program, we do a family event at the end of spring harvest or fall harvest. And we call it a potluck event. And they can bring in their own recipe that they've made. And we also offer food from the recipes we've made with the children, and their parents and grandparents come in and enjoy a couple hours of talking about nutritious foods and farms together. And this was one of the food events. And we paired with WIC here at the local farmers market to hand out veggie vouchers to the children, or market dollars. And these market dollars allowed the children to purchase healthy foods throughout the market. The farmers are really on board. They loved the concept. I will say the first time we did this, the kids were eager to buy the homemade whoopie pies and cookies and things like that. So the following year, we put some restrictions on it, and they could only buy fresh produce or, healthy foods. So, but this was a way to collaborate with WIC and make sure that both Head Start and WIC were offered to all of the families together, because they really do coincide quite a bit.
And so you got to see a bit of our program over that 8 to 9 weeks, and all of our programs kind of run similar like that, the kind of intense workshop pieces. As anybody knows who write grants, you have to have outcomes, and the outcomes are essential in order to get continued funding, or even to just showcase that what you're doing is valuable to both the customer and the overall kind of organization. And so we did do a pretty extensive assessment that really highlighted with each session kind of a pre and post test. And so before Abby and Sally would start their lesson each time, we did a pre-test with all the children, and then we did a post-test. You know, this is very easy in terms of even just having photos. And if it was cauliflower day, can you pick the cauliflower out of the series of photos? And there was about 3 to 5 questions per each. And as you can see, it was pretty substantial, the increases from the pre and post tests for the children in each of those sessions, particularly the pepper day, which is session number 6, and the winter squash day, which I'm sure a lot of people don't know a lot about winter squash. And this is just kind of showcasing the rest of the sessions in terms of those 8 weeks. And as you can see, there's a significant amount of increase in their knowledge, even them being 3- and 4-year-olds. We also got quite a lot of quotes from the children throughout the time frame, which was great, as well as quotes and feedback from both the family members as well as the parents and the other kind of caregivers, the teachers, the Head Start director, and the farmer. So it was kind of a great way to kind of summarize everything. The outcomes report is actually part of their files that Elaine was able to put together, as well as the lesson plans. And those lesson plans really go through those 8-week sessions and kind of what is done in terms of the activities, the taste testings, and all those pieces to give other ECE centers a tool to be able to do something similar. So as Abby said, along with these things, we really wanted to have an intergenerational event as we were going around this whole kind of hunger piece, because not just was hunger on the rise within our children population, but also with our senior population. And so in our centers that we had both senior centers, which we actually call healthy aging centers, as well as Head Start centers, we did intergenerational events. In Clinton County, we did the majority of those. And we had our Fall Harvest Festival, as well as the Winter Harvest Festival, which is awesome, that we'll talk about in a second. In addition, we also did a Spring Harvest Festival, and those are things that we will continue.
So here's the slide that highlights our early Head Start home visitor play groups. These groups meet throughout the month, typically twice a month, and there are 3 different groups. And I get to meet with them, each group once a month, making a different snack for them or with them each time. While the kids go off and play, I actually work with the parents, and we first start out with a discussion as far as all different topics, like how to approach your child with new foods, nutrition that the children should be getting, or maybe how to shop on a budget, and different resources like that. Eating the rainbow is another big one, as Rochelle mentioned. The kids love that. So in this particular one, on Monday coming up, for example, we're doing a whole wheat pasta salad. Moving into the summer months, they're looking for, easy recipes that can utilize fresh ingredients, and you can do so on a budget. So we're discussing those.
And I think what this shows, and why we wanted to include some information about our early Head Start home visitation play groups, is that we really do have an array of different options in terms of ECE, and we are doing farm to Head Start or farm to ECE in various options, both the home-based as well as the center-based. And just like we did kind of the fall harvest, we also did the winter harvest, and kind of all these harvest festivals are something we will continue, as it really brings in the generations in terms of the seniors who come to our centers, as well as the children and their families, which is really key in terms of that kind of long-term change in their healthy habits. So moving on from those workshops, as I said, that were really kind of intense, we actually moved to the Harvest of the Month program, and I'm happy to say that we received a small grant from the Food Trust of $5,000, which really helped us make this happen. We worked with Lycoming College students in their teaching certificate program, as well as the expertise that we have here at Step Head Start, and developed the Harvest of the Month program that really went through each of the months. And then designed activities that were based on cognitive learning, science, language, skills, various pieces that really allowed us to kind of pick and choose these activities based on each classroom for the teachers to be able to do that and really free up Abby and Sally's time. Just to give you an idea, January is beets, February is turnips, March is mixed greens, April is radishes, May is asparagus, June is strawberries, July is tomatoes, August is peppers, September is pears, October is squash, November is broccoli and cauliflower, and December is carrots. And so within each of the months, we actually have different activities. We have facts about, in this case, beets. We talk about the local providers. We have recipes. We have books to read about them. We have different kind of fun activities that we can do with them. One of the things about Head Start is we cannot use food as art in terms of projects, so we can't do, potato art or anything like that. All the food that we bring into the classroom and utilize for these activities must be eaten. So that's just kind of a different thing that maybe not all ECE centers have to deal with, but in terms of Head Start regulation, we do. And this is just kind of, showcasing some more of the activities and some more recipes that we did for that. In terms of our basically collaborative efforts and our impact across the community, we have various partners who are helping to make this happen, particularly the Harvest of the Month program, including the Step Head Start. One of the keys to it is Step administration is very much on board with this and integrating it into the curriculum. We see a value in this. We see how important it is to address the idea of hunger within our community, and we're doing other pieces along with this, with the local food bank, as well as with the farming community and the growers market. The WIC community in terms of the families that are both Head Start and WIC, and how we can really get them both the veggie vouchers like Abby talked about, and other support to be able to eat local. The Food Trust, like I said, was a funder of that the Harvest of the Month program. And then it was great to have Lycoming College students really help us to design that activities. And that's really what it is. It's a compilation of activities around a specific fruit or vegetable for that month. So when we're looking at moving forward, we really want to expand to a spring and fall harvest in each county. We primarily have been doing those in Clinton County because in Lycoming County we didn't have a facility really large enough. But I'm excited to say that we are moving 13 of our Head Start classrooms to a old school that we are currently remodeling. And in that facility, we will have definitely enough room to be doing the spring and fall harvest events. Expanding the Farm to Head Start programs into all classrooms, which I talked about before, and really doing that through the Harvest of the Month activities, and really having it be teacher-driven, and having the teachers integrating those activities into their curriculum. And then expanding the home-based and early Head Start through those play groups and kind of integrating those kind of readily as play groups are developed and such like that. We also are doing more collaboration with regards to Central Pennsylvania Food Bank, and we're actually hosting, coming up in May here, a family food and fun program that will actually be inviting all of our families there to the food bank, who has a new demonstration kitchen, and then Abby will be cooking dinner with them, which is awesome. And that'll be kind of another extension of the learning that we'll be doing in the Farm to Head Start program. And so we're really happy that the food bank is on board and working with us on that. And that's our presentation. If you have any questions, here's our contact information. Like I said, all the resources, including the Harvest of the Month kind of collection of activities, are right there in the file. But if you want any more information, we'd be happy to provide it to you. And I will turn it back over to Elaine. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rochelle and Abby. That was wonderful. What beautiful slides, and all of the children that were represented looked so engaged in the activities that you were implementing. That was really wonderful to see. It doesn't look like we have any questions right now. I'll give it just a little bit of time to see if someone, a question might come to mind. But in the meantime, I have one, and that is for Rochelle and or Abby. What you have described is such a well-developed multi-component program. If you are a child care center out there that is not really doing anything in the farm to early child care area, do you have any pieces of advice about where or how to get started?
I think we'll both answer that, but I think one of the key pieces is that if you really look hard enough, you probably are doing something. And like I said, you know, with us, we were doing kind of planting of beans in the classrooms and, you know, doing pumpkins and doing all that stuff for years and years, but it was never kind of formalized or never kind of brought together in a kind of package. And so I think that, you know, really based on your budget and based on what your availability is, really reaching out to partners to see what other things you can do. Our master gardeners have been incredible. And that's really where we started, and the momentum really came to with having the master gardeners come in, do some plantings with us, you know, and then doing the composting with the worms, and all these kind of things really kind of help move it forward. And so I think that that would be a great place to start on the kind of growing end, would be working with the master gardeners, even just a small project, you know, everybody planting like lettuce or something like that would be great. And I think the other piece on the food end, the taste tests, I think are a very easy piece. And really in terms of what Abby talked about, the No Yuck My Yum and various kind of tools and pieces that you can utilize with your students, you know, it makes it a fun activity, and you're not kind of forcing them to try things. But it's a really easy thing. You may only need to buy one pepper, or work with the farmer's market, and they may give you a pepper. So I think there's various ways that you can do things like that on a budget.
Yeah, I would say don't be intimidated to bring something new into the classroom. As Deb mentioned, you know, if you pass a farm stand and there's some peaches there and they look nice, then I would say buy a couple and bring them into the classroom. Let the kids do a taste test and, you know, vote on if they like it or not. And also, going to your farmer's market, talking to the farmers there, a lot of them actually have, for example, there's an apple orchard by us that had seconds. And basically what that means is there might be one tiny blemish or something like that on the apple that just doesn't deem them good enough to sell at a profit. So they'll either give them to you or sell them to you at a very minimal price. So the more people you talk to, the better results you'll get.
Great, thank you. Well, it doesn't look like we have any questions. I guess you all have done such a good job describing your programs that there are no questions. So we will just wrap up. We're at about the 1 hour mark anyway. I want to just remind everyone that we have been recording the webinar. So if you know of anyone that you think might be interested in this, the link to the recording and all of the downloadable files will be on the Project PA website shortly. I want to thank Deb Bensel and Rochelle Abbott and Abby Eschbach for sharing your wonderful programs with us this afternoon, and I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Awesome. Yay.